Ever felt like you were drowning in a sea of people, yet still felt utterly alone? You're not alone in feeling that way. In today's hyper-connected world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the constant noise and demands. But what if I told you that solitude, often seen as a negative, could actually be the key to unlocking a deeper level of happiness and fulfillment? The ancient Stoics, those wise old Greeks and Romans, had a thing or two to say about solitude. They saw it not as a punishment, but as a precious opportunity for personal growth and self-discovery. Guys like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus preached about the importance of being content with your own company. They believed that true happiness wasn't dependent on external circumstances or the approval of others. Now I know what you're thinking. Easier said than done. In a world that's constantly pushing us to be social, to be connected, it can feel counterintuitive to seek out solitude. But hear me out. By learning to embrace solitude, we can break free from the chains of societal expectations and discover a sense of peace that's truly our own. In this guide, we'll explore the Stoic perspective on solitude, why the ancient philosophers valued solitude so highly, the benefits of solitude, how spending time alone can improve your mental health and overall well-being, practical tips for embracing solitude, strategies for finding peace and quiet in a noisy world, overcoming the fear of loneliness, how to reframe your thoughts about being alone. So, if you're ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and inner peace, join me as we dive into the world of solitude and explore the transformative power of being alone. Let's get started. Lesson 1. Embrace the solitude. All right, let's dive into this. In our always-on world, being alone can feel like a punishment, right? But the ancient Stoics knew something we often forget. Solitude can be a powerful tool for self-discovery and growth. Why solitude matters. Think about it. How often do you get a chance to just be, without the noise of notifications, the demands of others, or the endless scroll of social media? Solitude gives your mind a chance to wander, to process, and to recharge. Clarity. Silence can clear mental clutter and help you see your life with greater clarity. Creativity. Some of our best ideas come to us when we're alone with our thoughts. Self-awareness. Solitude allows you to connect with your inner self on a deeper level. The Stoics on solitude. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, were big fans of solitude. They saw it as a way to practice self-control, develop virtue, and find true happiness. They understood that our happiness doesn't come from external things, but from our inner state. Bringing solitude into modern life. So, how do we embrace solitude in our busy lives? Digital detox. Unplug from your devices for a set period each day. Nature walks. Spend time in nature, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Mindfulness meditation. Focus on the present moment and observe your thoughts without judgment. Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet park, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face. You close your eyes and focus on your breath. In that moment, you're completely present. You're not thinking about work or your to-do list or what you're going to have for dinner. You're simply being. That's the power of solitude. It's a chance to reconnect with yourself and to find a sense of peace in a chaotic world. Remember, solitude doesn't mean isolation. It's about choosing to spend time alone so you can better appreciate the company of others when you do. Lesson 2. Alone yet not lonely. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of solitude, but what about loneliness? Isn't that the opposite of what we want? Not necessarily. The Stoics understood that being alone and feeling lonely are two different things. You can be physically alone, but emotionally rich and connected to something bigger than yourself. The difference between alone and lonely. Being alone is a state. Loneliness is a feeling. You can be alone in a crowded room, surrounded by people, and still feel a sense of isolation. On the other hand, you can be alone in a quiet room and feel a deep sense of connection to the universe. Loneliness is often rooted in fear and a sense of lack. We fear being alone because we believe we need others to validate us or make us happy. Solitude, when embraced, can be a source of strength and empowerment. It allows us to connect with our true selves and find meaning in life. The Stoic perspective on loneliness. The Stoics argued that true happiness comes from within, not from external sources like people or possessions. By focusing on our inner world and cultivating virtue, we can overcome loneliness and find contentment. Epictetus once said, "It is not events that disturb us, but rather our judgments about these events." This means that it's not the fact that we're alone that causes us to feel lonely, but rather the meaning we give to that experience. Overcoming loneliness. So, how can we overcome loneliness and embrace solitude? Cultivate gratitude. Focus on the good things in your life, no matter how small. Connect with nature. Spending time in nature can help you feel more grounded and connected. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding. Develop your interests. Pursue hobbies and activities that bring you joy. Imagine this. You're sitting at a coffee shop, a book in hand. You're surrounded by people, but you feel a sense of peace and contentment. You're not lonely because you're connected to the world around you through your thoughts, your feelings, and your appreciation for the simple things in life. Remember, being alone doesn't mean you're broken or unworthy of love. It simply means you're choosing to spend time with yourself, and that's a powerful thing. Lesson 3. The art of letting go. Okay, so we've talked about finding peace in solitude and understanding that being alone doesn't equal loneliness. Now let's dive into one of the most challenging yet rewarding aspects of the Stoic philosophy: letting go. We humans are creatures of habit. We get attached to things, people, and ideas. And when we lose something or someone we love, it can feel like the end of the world. But the Stoics would argue that this attachment is the root of much of our suffering. What does it mean to let go? Letting go isn't about giving up on life or your dreams. It's about accepting what is and letting go of what you can't control. It's about freeing yourself from the past and the future and living fully in the present moment. The Stoics and attachment. The Stoics believed that we should only attach ourselves to things that are within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our judgments. Everything else is outside of our control and therefore not worth stressing over. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This means that our perceptions of reality are often shaped by our own biases and assumptions. By letting go of these attachments, we can see the world more clearly and respond to it more effectively. Letting go in everyday life. So, how do we practice letting go in our daily lives? Practice mindfulness. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Accept what is. Don't fight against reality. Accept things as they are, even if you don't like them. Let go of the past. Don't dwell on past mistakes or regrets. Don't worry about the future. Focus on the present moment and take things one day at a time. Imagine this. You've been working on a project for weeks and it's finally finished. You're proud of your work, but you can't help but feel a little anxious about how it will be received. Instead of dwelling on the outcome, you decide to let go and enjoy the feeling of accomplishment. By letting go of attachment to the outcome, you've freed yourself from unnecessary stress and anxiety. Remember, letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means freeing yourself from the things that hold you back. It's about living a life that's more authentic, more fulfilling, and more in line with your values. Lesson 4. Mastering solitude. All right, so we've talked about embracing solitude, understanding loneliness, and the art of letting go. Now let's dive deeper into how we can actually master this thing called solitude. It's not just about being alone. It's about using that time to grow and evolve. Why master solitude? In our hyper-connected world, solitude can feel like a lost art, but it's a skill worth cultivating. When you're alone, you have the opportunity to know thyself. Without the noise of external distractions, you can really get to know who you are. Boost creativity. Solitude can be a breeding ground for new ideas and creative projects. Strengthen your spirit. By facing your fears and doubts alone, you build resilience. The Stoics on mastering solitude. The ancient Stoics were masters of solitude. They understood that it wasn't just about being alone, but about using that time wisely. They'd often retreat to quiet places to reflect on their lives, practice virtue, and connect with nature. Epictetus once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This means that true happiness comes from within, and solitude provides the perfect environment to cultivate that inner peace. Mastering solitude in the modern world. So, how can we master solitude in our busy lives? Create a sacred space. Designate a quiet place in your home where you can retreat to. Practice mindfulness. Focus on the present moment and observe your thoughts without judgment. Engage in solo activities. Explore hobbies like reading, writing, or gardening. Connect with nature. Spend time in nature to recharge and find perspective. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cozy corner of your home, a cup of tea in hand, and a good book open. The world outside fades into the background as you lose yourself in the story. This is a moment of pure solitude, and it's incredibly nourishing for your soul. Remember, mastering solitude isn't about running away from the world. It's about creating a balance between your inner and outer worlds. Lesson 5. Self-reliant happiness. All right, let's talk about the ultimate goal of our Stoic journey, happiness. But not just any happiness. We're talking about a deep, abiding contentment that comes from within, a happiness that isn't dependent on external circumstances. This is what the Stoics called eudaimonia. Happiness isn't found, it's created. So many of us chase happiness in all the wrong places, in material possessions, in relationships, or in the approval of others. But true happiness can only come from within. It's a state of mind that we cultivate through our thoughts, our actions, and our values. The Stoics and self-reliance. The Stoics understood that our happiness is largely up to us. They taught that we should focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our judgments, and let go of everything else. This is the essence of self-reliance. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This means that our happiness isn't determined by our circumstances, but by our attitude towards those circumstances. Cultivating self-reliant happiness. So, how do we cultivate this kind of self-reliant happiness? Practice. Gratitude. Focus on the good things in your life, no matter how small. Develop virtue. Strive to live a virtuous life, characterized by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Let go of expectations. Don't expect life to be perfect. Accept things as they are. Embrace the present moment. Live in the now, rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Imagine this. You're sitting on a park bench, watching the world go by. You're not thinking about your problems or what you need to do next. You're simply enjoying the moment. You feel grateful for the warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of birds singing, and the company of a good book. This is self-reliant happiness. Remember, happiness isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's something we create every day through our thoughts and actions. Lesson 6. Finding freedom in solitude. All right, let's talk about freedom. Not the kind where you're free to do whatever you want, whenever you want, though that can be nice sometimes, but a deeper kind of freedom. The freedom from the constant noise and demands of the modern world. And where better to find that freedom than in solitude? Solitude, your personal sanctuary. Think about it. How often do you get a chance to just be, without the constant pings of your phone, the chatter of co-workers, or the noise of traffic? Solitude offers us a much-needed break from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who were all about living a good life, understood the power of solitude. They saw it as a way to connect with their inner selves and to find peace amidst the chaos. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man must be able to be alone." He was saying that our ability to be happy and fulfilled isn't dependent on external circumstances or the company of others. It's about finding contentment within ourselves, finding freedom in the modern world. So, how can we find freedom in solitude in today's fast-paced world? Digital detox. Unplug from your devices for a set period each day. Nature walks. Spend time in nature, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Mindfulness meditation. Focus on the present moment and observe your thoughts without judgment. Solo adventures. Take a solo trip or explore a new place on your own. Imagine this. You're sitting on a beach, watching the waves crash against the shore. The only sound is the gentle lapping of water and the cry of seagulls. In that moment, you feel completely free. There are no worries, no obligations, just you and the vast expanse of the ocean. Remember, solitude isn't about isolation. It's about creating space for yourself to think, to feel, and to grow. It's about reclaiming your power and living life on your own terms. Lesson 7. The Stoics' Guide to Solo Living. All right, let's dive deeper into this whole solo living thing. We've talked about the benefits of solitude, but what about actually living alone? It might sound daunting, but it's a fantastic opportunity for personal growth and freedom. Why solo living? Living alone gives you the ultimate freedom to design your life the way you want it. You're not tied down to anyone else's schedule, and you can make decisions without having to compromise. Here are a few reasons why solo living can be a game changer. Self-discovery. When you're alone, you have the time and space to really get to know yourself. Independence. You'll learn to rely on yourself for everything, which is incredibly empowering. Peace and quiet. Living alone offers a level of peace and quiet that's hard to find in a shared living situation. The Stoics and solo living. The ancient Stoics were all about self-sufficiency. They believed that the best way to live a good life was to focus on what was within your control, like your thoughts and actions, and what's more within your control than your living situation. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is especially true when it comes to living alone. It's up to you to create a positive and fulfilling experience. Tips for solo living. So how do you make the most of solo living? Create a routine. Having a daily routine can help you feel more grounded and productive. Connect with others. Even though you're living alone, it's important to maintain social connections. Embrace your hobbies. Use your free time to explore your passions. Take care of yourself. Make sure you're eating well, getting enough sleep, and exercising regularly. Imagine this. You wake up in your cozy apartment, brew a fresh pot of coffee, and sit down to read a book. You have the entire day to yourself, and you can do whatever you want. This is the freedom that comes with solo living. Remember, living alone isn't about being lonely. It's about being intentional with your time and creating a life that you love. Lesson 8. Beyond loneliness. All right, let's talk about something that a lot of us struggle with: loneliness. We've touched on it before, but there's more to explore. It's easy to feel alone in a crowded world, but the Stoics had a different perspective. They saw solitude not as a negative, but as an opportunity for growth. Loneliness, a misconception. We often think of loneliness as a problem to be solved, but what if it's an opportunity to deepen our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world? The Stoics believed that true happiness comes from within, and that we don't need other people to validate our existence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man must be able to be alone." This doesn't mean we should isolate ourselves, but rather that we should be comfortable in our own company. Beyond loneliness, finding connection. So, how do we move beyond loneliness? Connect with nature. Spending time in nature can help you feel more connected to something bigger than yourself. Practice gratitude. Focusing on the positive aspects of your life can shift your perspective. Cultivate your passions. Engaging in activities you love can give you a sense of purpose. Build meaningful relationships. Surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you. Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet cafe, lost in a good book. You're surrounded by people, but you feel a sense of peace and contentment. This is what it means to be truly alone, yet not lonely. Remember, loneliness is a temporary feeling, not a permanent state. By cultivating a sense of self-worth and purpose, you can overcome feelings of isolation. Lesson 9. The joy of solitude. Okay, let's flip the script on loneliness. Instead of seeing solitude as something to be feared, let's embrace it as a source of joy. We've all been there, feeling overwhelmed by the constant noise and demands of our lives. We crave a moment of peace, a chance to simply be. And guess what? That's exactly what solitude offers. The Stoics and the sweetness of solitude. The ancient Stoics, those masters of self-control and reason, were big fans of solitude. They understood that spending time alone allowed them to connect with their inner selves, to think clearly, and to cultivate virtue. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man must be able to be alone." He wasn't saying we should become hermits, but rather that we should be comfortable in our own company. The joy of being alone. So what makes solitude so joyful? Creativity. When you're alone, your mind is free to wander and make new connections, leading to bursts of creativity. Self-discovery. Solitude gives you the space to explore your thoughts, feelings, and values. Peace. There's something incredibly calming about being alone. It's a chance to recharge and reset. Imagine this. You're sitting in a cozy coffee shop, a book in hand. The soft murmur of people talking in the background creates a gentle white noise that actually helps you focus. You're completely absorbed in the story, and for a moment, the rest of the world fades away. This is the joy of solitude. Remember, solitude isn't about being lonely. It's about being at peace with yourself. Lesson 10. The Stoics' Guide to a Meaningful Life Alone. All right, let's talk about finding purpose. It's a question that has puzzled philosophers for centuries. But what if I told you that the key to a meaningful life might be simpler than you think? It might just involve a little solitude and a lot of self-reflection. The Stoics and the meaning of life. The ancient Stoics believed that the best way to live a meaningful life was to focus on what was within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our judgments. They argued that by cultivating virtue and living in accordance with nature, we could find true happiness and fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, don't just talk about living a good life, actually do it. Creating a meaningful life alone. So how can we create a meaningful life when we're living alone? Set goals. Having something to strive for gives life purpose. Practice. Gratitude. Focusing on the positive aspects of your life can shift your perspective. Contribute to something bigger. Volunteer your time or donate to a cause you care about. Continuously learn. Seek out new knowledge and experiences. Imagine this: you're sitting in your garden, tending to your plants. As you feel the soil beneath your fingers and watch your seeds sprout into life, you experience a sense of connection to something much larger than yourself. This is what it means to live a meaningful life. Remember, a meaningful life isn't about achieving some external goal. It's about finding fulfillment in the journey. So, there you have it. The secret to true happiness might just lie in solitude. By embracing the quiet moments, we can cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and find a sense of peace that's hard to come by in our always-on world. Remember, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It's about choosing to spend time with the most important person in your life, yourself. It's about embracing your independence and learning to rely on your own strength. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When faced with solitude, we have a choice: to wallow in self-pity or to use it as an opportunity for growth. So, the next time you find yourself alone, don't panic. See it as a gift, a chance to recharge, to reflect, and to connect with your true self. Embrace the solitude and watch as your life transforms. Remember, solitude is a superpower. Use it to build resilience, creativity, and self-awareness. You are enough. Your worth isn't determined by the number of friends you have or the amount of attention you get. Happiness comes from within. Don't seek it in external sources. By understanding and embracing the power of solitude, we can create a life that is rich, fulfilling, and truly our own. So, go forth and be alone. You'll be glad you did.